Forget the muscular king in a lion-skin cloak, standing alone against the Persian horde. Hollywood's Leonidas is a myth, forged in bronze and blood for the screen, not for history. In truth, in that fateful year of 480 BCE, Sparta had not one, but two kings. While Leonidas marched toward Thermopylae, his co-ruler, Leotychides, remained in the city, watching as his fellow king walked knowingly to his death. Why? Because Sparta's Dyarchy, a system of dual kingship rooted in mythic times, never allowed a single man to hold both the sword and the fate of the polis. This was no weakness, but a cunning mechanism of checks. While one king waged war, the other governed. While one risked everything, the other preserved the dynasty. Herodotus, our main source, mentions Leotychides only in passing, as an inconvenient detail. But what if it was his silent consent, or even secret calculation, that cleared Leonidas' path to the pass? Thermopylae was not merely a battle, but a political sacrifice, meticulously orchestrated in the councils of elders and ephors. Who stood to gain from Leonidas' death? And why did history erase the second king, leaving only a solitary hero against the sunset? Picture the Spartan palace, not marble, but rough-hewn, steeped in the scent of olive oil and sweat. Two thrones, two scepters, two dynasties, the Agiads and the Eurypontids. Not allies, but rivals forced to share power like wolves tearing at a carcass. Leonidas and Agiad was only half the equation. His shadow was Leotychides II, a Eurypontid, whose name was erased not by enemies, but by his own elite. Why? Because in Sparta, real power lay not in the golden helmets of kings, but in the wrinkled hands of the 5 ephors, annually elected elders who could arrest a king as easily as a common soldier. Herodotus writes of them with strained respect, but beneath his words lies fear. The ephors didn't just observe, they manipulated, spied, and decided who would die a hero and who would vanish into exile. The Dyarchy wasn't about balance, it was about fear. Fear of tyranny, fear that one king, drunk on glory, might seek to rule alone. So when Xerxes marched millions against Greece, Sparta didn't send its best, it sent its necessary. Leonidas, whose brother Cleomenes had gone mad and been deposed, whose reputation was already tainted by scandal, was the perfect sacrificial candidate. And Leotychides? He stayed behind, not out of cowardice, but calculation. His spies whispered in every alley. His agents tracked Leonidas' every move. In Sparta, on the eve of Thermopylae, people breathed carefully. Even a sigh too loud could become an accusation. So who truly ordered Leonidas into the pass? The Persians? Or his own co-rulers? Leonidas wasn't born for the throne, he survived into it. The third son of King Anaxandridas, he endured the Agiad not as a prince, but as any Spartan boy, barefoot over thorns, stomach empty, knife at his belt, in a beast system where the weak were cast into the Caiadas chasm. He learned not to fight, but to survive. Yet, as third in line, he was destined to remain in shadow until a chain reaction of deaths intervened. First, his elder brother Dorius perished in a reckless colonial venture in Africa. Then came Cleomenes, his half-brother, whose mind, Herodotus claims, melted like wax. officially suicide. But ask any whisperer in Sparta, back streets, who truly tightened the horse-gut noose. Cleomenes had grown too bold, storming Athens, ignoring the ephors. His madness was too convenient an explanation for the removal of an inconvenient king. And then entered Gorgo, not the wise queen of anecdotes, but a key political asset. Daughter of Cleomenes, she was the living link to the legitimate Agiad line. Marrying her transformed Leonidas from a reserve player into a rightful heir. This wasn't love, it was a pact sealed in blood and fear. Look closely at his face in the reliefs. There, no reckless heroism, only the weariness of a man who knows every step is watched. Leonidas wasn't just a warrior, he was a product of a court where loyalty was tested with poison and trust with denunciations. He stayed silent when the ephors exiled his brother. He stayed silent when Cleomenes went mad. He learned to be silent and to survive. So who was he really? A victim of a system he couldn't break? Or a master of shadow politics who chose Thermopylae, not as a place to die, but as a stage for immortality? The air in Delphi hung thick with incense and dread. There, in the sanctuary where the Pythia fell into trance from the fissure's toxic vapors, Spartan envoys came, not for counsel, but for a sentence. And they received it. Either a king of Heracles, line shall perish, or Sparta shall fall. Sounds like divine revelation. Now ask, who paid the priests for bread, wine, and silence? Delphi wasn't a sanctuary. It was a marketplace of influence. The Persians lavished the temple with gold, the Athenians with silver, but Spartan ephors also knew how to speak the Pythia's language, coin. What if this prophecy wasn't Apollo's will, but a commission from the Council of Five? A convenient, sacred pretext to send one king to the altar while preserving the other for future games. And then Carneian, the sacred festival during which Sparta did not wage war. Under any circumstances. The law wasn't debated. It was sacred, but what if it became the perfect alibi? While Leonidas led 300 warriors to Thermopylae, Leotychides remained in the city, citing religious duty. We cannot march. The Carneian is upon us, the chronicles say. But Herodotus, an Athenian at heart, never asks who in the council insisted on this interpretation. Who decided that 300 was a symbolic gesture, not an army? Because Sparta that year was engulfed in a quiet civil war. Agiads versus Eurypontids. Leonidas, with his connections, his heir-wife Gorgo, his battlefield experience, was growing too powerful. Leotychides, by contrast, needed time, influence, survival. And the ephors, they saw the dilemma. Send both kings, and the polis fractures. Send none, and Sparta loses face before its allies. The solution? A compromise forged in the shadow of Athena Chalkioikos' temple. Leonidas goes. Not with an army, with an elite. Not for victory, for sacrifice. The 300 weren't a fighting force. They were a ritual offering. A symbol that Sparta resisted, but not too fiercely. And now, the final piece of the mosaic. After Leonidas' death, his infant son was left without a throne. Who became regent? Leotychides. And a few years later, he was exiled for taking bribes from Persia. History erased his name, but not his role. So who truly benefited from the Delphic prophecy? the gods, or those who knew how to counterfeit their voice. Dust at Thermopylae clung to bronze like ash to a weeping statue. The 300 weren't an army. They were the elite, the hippies, the royal guard, chosen not by age but by blood and loyalty. Each was a father. Each had a son to inherit his house. Leonidas knew sending them to die wouldn't rob Sparta of its future. He was securing it. And beside them, 7,000 allies: Thespians, Phocians, Thebans. Herodotus mentions them in passing as mere backdrop to the Spartan solo, but without them, the pass couldn't hold. Without them, no battle at all. So why does only Leonidas linger in memory? Because he chose the battlefield, not the gods, not the oracle. He did. The narrow pass by the sea, where Persian hordes became a mob, not an army, where Xerxes, arrows fell into the water and chariots tumbled into the abyss. This wasn't desperation, it was calculation. Leonidas knew Sparta wouldn't send reinforcements. Carneian was a convenient excuse. The ephors were reliable breaks. His detachment wasn't an airstrike force. It was a living wall, and his only chance to inflict damage was to force the Persians into close combat, where numbers meant nothing. This wasn't a hero's tactic. It was a commander cornered by his own politics. And the Thebans, they weren't allies. They were hostages. Their loyalty reeked of betrayal from miles away. Leonidas placed them in the front ranks, not to fight, but to control. If they fled, shame. If they betrayed, execution. If they died, Sparta gained martyrs. Everything served his purpose, his reputation, his legend. Then, the fifth day, the traitor Ephialtes reveals the mountain path. Defeat is inevitable, counsel by the fire. Voices hoarse, armor dented. Most demand retreat, save lives, return home. But Leonidas is silent. Then he rises and says, "We stay, not we must, not honor demands it, just we stay." Why? Because he understood back in Sparta, a new game had already begun. The peace party, ephors, Leotychides, merchants weary of war, were ready to deal with Persia. Cede the north, Save the south. And Leonidas, his death would be his final argument, a bloody manifesto. If he died here not as a pragmatist, but as a hero, his name would become a weapon. Against compromise, against Leotychides, against anyone who dared negotiate with barbarians. He didn't choose death. He chose immortality. As a political instrument, his body would rot in the pass, but his name would echo in every Spartan home, in every oath, in every glance at the royal throne. The hippies would perish, but their sons would grow up uttering one name, Leonidas. The Agiads wouldn't vanish. They'd become myth. So who truly won at Thermopylae? The Persians, land; Sparta, time; and Leonidas, eternity. But at what cost? 300 lives, thousands of allies erased from memory, and the truth buried beneath layers of heroic marble. Leonidas didn't die for Greek freedom. He died for his dynasty's power, and we still pay him tribute, unknowing that we bow not to a hero, but to a master of posthumous politics. While Leonidas bled out in the dust of Thermopylae, another battle raged in Sparta, without swords, but with equal tension. Leotychides didn't sit idle awaiting news. He dug, literally. By his order, thousands of helots built fortifications on the Isthmus of Corinth, ditches, walls, abatis, not to repel Persians, but to signal. Every shovelful of earth was a token in a game. "See, we resist," Sparta shouted to its allies, but not too much. The ephors approved. Their goal: buy time without risking the army. And Leonidas' death? It became the perfect catalyst. Suddenly, all quarrels in the Greek camp ceased. Athens, Corinth, Megara all rallied under the banner of vengeance. The sacrifice of one king welded fragmented polis into a single fist. The irony? Leonidas died for an ideal he didn't share, and his death united those he despised. A year passed. The Persians returned to Greece, but now, not in a pass, but on the plains of Plataea. Here, not 300 but 10,000 Spartans, led by Pausanias, Leonidas, his nephew and regent for his infant son. It was he who crushed Xerxes. It was his phalanxes that routed the immortals. This was real victory, not posthumous legend, but living, clanging proof of Spartan might. And yet, who remembers Pausanias? Who knows it was his strategy that broke an empire? Because myth is more convenient than truth. Leonidas' defeat is pure, tragic, unambiguous. Pausanias' victory is messy, politicized, tainted by his later downfall. Sparta preferred the cult of a dead hero. He demanded no answers, challenged no ephors' authority. A living victor? He was dangerous. That's the genius of the Dyarchy. It let Sparta lose a head and not die. One king fell as symbol, the other preserved the state. The system didn't break. It worked, but ask yourself, if Leotychides had gone to Thermopylae instead of Leonidas, would he be remembered as a hero or just another forgotten corpse by a Persian road? Leonidas wasn't free. His genius, if genius it was born in a cage of rituals, spies, and twin thrones. The Dyarchy didn't give him an army, it gave him a stage. And he performed so well that 300 bodies became an eternal lever on the memory of an entire civilization. Was there a choice? No. Sparta didn't send kings on heroic quests. It discarded them when they disrupted the balance. But Leonidas turned disposal into an apocalypse of glory. He knew, die quietly, and he'd be raised like Cleomenes. Die loudly, and he'd become law. And he died so loudly that even Herodotus, an Athenian propagandist, was forced to bow his pen. Was this system effective? Look at the result. Sparta outlived Thermopylae, Plataea, even its own decline. Kings fell. The state endured. The Dyarchy didn't protect heroes. It sacrificed them like pawns in a game where the prize was survival. So Leonidas didn't win the war. He won history. And to this day, we repeat his name without asking, whose version do we honor, the truth or the ephors' commission?